So, how are you getting settled in this semester?
Um, I think I'm just like right now all of my classes are online, which is not something new for me since I've always just taken online classes. But it's just weird since to see like the campus be so empty, kind of,
Yeah.
like the lack of like activity on our campus is just really like alarming. But other than that, like I've been settling in really like well. Like I'm not really stressed about any of my classes or the transitions or anything like that.
hmm Yeah, it's really weird seeing the campus empty. So like, did you move into like a house or something, or do you already live in Tucson?
I've been living in Tucson for the past 12 or 11 years with my family, and I currently live at home with my family.
Cool. And you didn't find the transition to online difficult at all? Because personally, like, I don't like online, but it is what it is.
No, like since I've entered the U of A, like 2018, I've mainly taken online classes just because like that's what I feel more comfortable with is like that self pace of like I can do this at this time, I can go to this class at this time and everything. And so in-person classes have never been something that I've like felt comfortable with. Only because like there isn't much of like autonomy. So I like my online classes.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And honestly, I think that's going to become more commonplace because like some of these professors just restate what the assigned reading was. And
Mhm.
like, I mean, maybe if you're confused, that's helpful, but not having a discussion, just reviewing material, I don't think it's like very
Right,
valuable. So
right,
that could be the future, especially after all of this.
right.
So definitely something I guess we'll see. Um, so you were elected AVP of ASUA, right? That
Correct.
stands for Assistant Vice President,
Administrative vice president.
Administrative Vice President. So like, what does that mean? What are your responsibilities?
So what that means is I oversee about 12 to 11 programs and services, some of them including Safe Ride, the Campus Pantry, Campus Closet, Pride Alliance, Force, and like all these other programs and services that are like led and ran by other students who are directors. And so basically with that, I have like not weekly meetings, but like the responsibility requires me to have meetings with the co-directors just to see like what they're doing, what their plans are, their leadership, and to basically advise and guide them on like how to run their program and how to engage with students while also being able to just help them find ways to help them engage their members and find ways to like advance their leadership as students.
hmm are you optimistic about this year, or is it a little intimidating given like everything that changed?
um, Honestly, it is a little intimidating with like all of the transitioning because this is going to be like my first time having a very direct involvement with ASUA. And so trying to navigate like what ASUA is and the policies and like the people who run it and like how it's ran while also trying to be this student leader who's overseeing all these other people and trying to help them like figure out how to do things with like everything that's happening. So it's a lot of things to like manage and navigate, but I'm kind of am excited because I just like the challenge of like being able to figure things out based on like what I know and like what I'm learning from others who I'm working with.
hmm Yeah, I think everyone's going to need a little help adjusting this semester.
Right.
Um, and so there's also another vice president. I think it's executive vice president,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's Noah Vega, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So what does he do? Like, what distinguishes your two roles?
So what Noah does is he does most of like the clubs and organizations who want to register through ASUA and get club funding for their organizations on our campus. And he also oversees the college senators that we have. And so that's the difference between me and him is that like he oversees Senate and then he has like this giant budget to maintain, and like Senate gets to decide like who to give money to, where money goes, and like choices between like policies that are or policies and initiatives that are pushed forth. So like scholarships, uh, overall like campus engagement, and like all these different ideas that ASUA wants to like take part in. Like Senate has that power to like decide as a collective. And then for me, it's more of just like clubs, not clubs, but like programs and services that are like the foundation of ASUA, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any like one program that like you really like, or is it guesses your favorite?
um, I don't really have any favorites right now, or I don't think I'm ever going to have a favorite, but the one that I've directly been involved in this past year was Pride Alliance. And Force, I was an intern for Pride Alliance my freshman year. And then I applied for the co-director position my sophomore year. And so I know a lot of the things like Pride Alliance does and like their collaboration with Force, like in the LGBTQ and then the Women Gender Resource Center. And like Pride Alliance is probably like the closest to my heart because all of my social justice is like a huge part of like who I am. And so a lot of the things that I've learned about activism and like liberation and like all of these important things regarding social justice was from Pride Alliance. So like I have that personal relationship and experience with Pride Alliance.
That's great. And so like if someone wants to get involved in Pride Alliance, like how do you go about doing that?
So they would go right now, the co-director positions have been fulfilled, but like they're looking for interns, and there's I think about 6 to 8 positions available for Pride internships. So they would go to the ASUA website and then go to like get involved, and then student clubs and organizations, Pride Alliance, and then Pride Alliance has its own page, and then the link of like the application to apply for internship for the 2021 year.
Gotcha. All right. By the way, are you a junior or a senior?
I'm entering my junior year, but my official standing is senior, just because of like my credits.
Cool. So I want to ask one more ASUA question because like it's just a kind of confusing like aspect to me.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think it was like in the spring, students got a chance to vote for like the instatement of like the House of Representatives for ASUA. Do you know how that works or like how it's going to work?
Right now we haven't had many discussions about that, and it's probably going to be a conversation and initiative that we're going to dive into probably the spring 2021 semester.
Gotcha. And like, what was like the motivation behind, I guess, that resolution?
So my understanding is that is something that like the previous exec team wanted to push forth, and the purpose was to have other voices, especially voices of like people who work in the cultural resource centers and people who are not really like directly involved with ASUA, be part of making these choices that also affect them, and like getting a chance to participate in ASUA and get leadership roles and get experiences with ASUA, and being able to work along with Senate, and just like the main focus is to just invite like new voices and like invite new people to the table, just so that not everything is like linear or binary or just stagnant in a way. So it's just for like representation of like other student voices on our campus that are not oftentimes highlighted.
Gotcha. So it's like representatives would come from, rather than colleges, they'd come from like cultural resource centers and other areas of community life?
Basically, yes.
Okay, cool. Are you worried that like that might stagnate like policies like being implemented, or do you think like it should be fine? Because like that's what you kind of see in like our government, you know, like
Right.
the Senate will pass something to go to the House and it'll get rejected or sent back.
Right. Yeah, I feel like there will be some challenges of like trying to navigate like different voices and different opinions on like different topics and stuff. But I feel like with the group of Senate and like the people that we have right now and the other students on our campus, I feel like there's going to be a strong alignment in like how things are going to be done and like what kind of choices are going to be made. So of course, like there's going to be different opinions and like people not agreeing with each other. But I think overall, like I think we have a strong group of people who are able to look at the bigger picture and decide like what is important and what should be prioritized.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to like how that's gonna work out. I think it should be
Same here.
interesting.
Same here.
So what are your thoughts on reentry? We just got an email, I think, from like the president or the provost, I forgot who, that we're extending like phase one for another week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not going to get like small classrooms in person, at least for another week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on reentry so far? Has the university been doing a good job in your eyes in welcoming students back?
I think that's a tough question to answer.
Definitely.
I think overall, I think from an administrative level, the university has rushed into this, I believe. And I think that the university does have like a reputation to uphold. But I think that there comes a time when you have to really sit and think like, is this really the time to put our reputation and being the first to do things as a priority rather than the safety of students? And I think that if they took at least like a couple of months to really work on this reentry plan and to really consider the safety of students and like who COVID is really impacting, I feel like it would have been all right. But I feel like overall, like Tucson and like Arizona as a state just like rushed into getting back to normality and getting things back to running. And I think that has caused a lot of problems for people and a lot of like mistrust amongst the faculty, students, staff, and administrative people. But I think like right now, like choices have already been made, you know, and we can't really go back. So I think right now, like our main focus and priority is trying to deal with it and trying to navigate the reentry plan to the best of our abilities while still also being authentic to ourselves as ASUA and as student leaders. But my overall opinion is I wish that we waited, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Really
Yeah.
and really like prioritize student voices and student needs, as well as like the faculty and staff who've been saying, no, this is not the right time to do this and to come back.
Right. And we've definitely seen like a lot of faculty pushback. Like, you know, you had Coalition of Academic Justice.
Mm-hmm.
They've begun to, I guess, unionize some faculty. And so it's definitely, I guess, concerning to see this many faculty. I don't know exactly how many, but to see faculty push back. And then, you know, I guess the real test will be when we do actually begin to start to go in person, because like right now, like everyone's a virtual.
Right.
So, you know, I guess in terms of moving into the dorms, it hasn't been too bad. I don't know exactly how many cases there have been, but it hasn't made headlines. So I guess that's a good sign.
Right.
And then, yeah, I guess it's really going to come down to like once in-person classes start.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think it's like really nerve-wracking just to think about like what's going to happen when we are fully in person and whether that's going to like backtrack everything that the administrative people have like decided. And I also do think that I don't think it's concerning that there's pushback from faculty and staff. I think that's like, it's very liberating to see the amount of people who are so like passionate and so determined to center what matters and that is like humanizing the experience for students on our campus without prioritizing things that don't really center the needs of people who are attending the university, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's concerning that there's faculty pushback and that faculty weren't like, you know, on board or they weren't like, you know, consulted for this like decision. So
Right.
it's definitely interesting to see these like inner dynamics of administration faculty.
Right.
So I wanted to go into one of the interactions we had in the past, which is the COBA meeting with administration.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely really interesting to cover. I live tweeted it with the Daily Wildcat, so I was like following it minute by minute.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could just walk me through the experience from your perspective, what were the thoughts and like emotions going through your head, and yeah, anything else you want to bring up?
um, I think that like pre-planning for the meeting, I think was very like it was stressful trying to gather like all of the information and all of like the facts of like our 21 list of demands, but it was also again like very liberating to be working with like so many different students of like different backgrounds and like who are actually who do other work regarding accountability on our campus and like activism and advocacy on our campus, and being able to work with them and realize that like there is a common ground here, which is there is an accountability system from an administrative level. And although there's resources on our campus, these resources are not BIPOC centered. So it's like really fun and amazing to just be working with so many different students who are just so determined to get the letter written, to get administration to listen, and to get like support from the UA community. I also think that like during that meeting, like the meeting from our perspective went well because we were very organized and we came prepared, and we had like very good questions that really challenged the administration and put them in a position where they did have to like critically think about these issues of racism and oppression and what it actually means to move past diversity and inclusion and really look at like anti-racist policies on our campus. But then like of course towards the end it did get emotional, like for me personally, because it's like I'm here as a Black student asking these people who are in such powerful positions to humanize my experience as a Black person, you know, and for them to just blatantly say no and just reject every single point was very hard, because it's like I'm trying to be present as a student leader. I'm trying to be present as just me and myself, while also trying to process the emotions that I'm going through, and like this really difficult power dynamic between students and administration, and being dehumanized in that moment, and like being gaslighted of like what I'm feeling as a person, and being asked again to be humanized as a Black person attending the University of Arizona from the administration, you know, specifically from President Robbins. So I think like there was a lot of like emotions and like intensity that happened towards the end. But overall, like it was a very like teaching moment of like what it takes for BIPOC students to show up as advocates and as student leaders, while also still trying to, you know, lean into their emotions and lean into their experiences and their narratives, while again like trying to uphold this thing of like being professional and being firm and being on top of it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And one of the things for me that was like, I just thought was crazy is that you guys only had like, I think they only gave you 45 minutes, or
Yeah.
I think it ran an hour, but they only gave you like, they said 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I noticed they also did that with, I think it was Voice. When
Voice.
Voice had a meeting with the administration, they only gave them 30 minutes. And so I just thought that was like interesting that they try to keep it short. But I think COBA had been trying to get more meetings scheduled in the future. Do you have any updates about that? Because I haven't heard anything
Yeah,
personally.
so we've been speaking with our point of contact, who is the Dean of Students, Kendall Washington White. And so we've been talking with her, and she's been like, communicating with us about the availability of the administration. And it's just been like pushing back each week, like, we're not ready, let's just wait and see like what happens and stuff. So right now, like, COBA is trying to prepare for this next meeting, and we have like good material. We're just waiting for the availability of the president and everyone else who we want present. And it's like, of course, the president is a very busy person, and so is everyone else. So we can't really expect to have his full attention like the next day. So it's just like waiting to see how everyone's schedule aligns with students' schedules. So it's just, we're just waiting to hear back.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So if you could have like 3 key things changed at the university, whatever it is, what would you want to see changed
Just
or
3.
improve? Yeah, like the 3 that you view as most important.
I wish there was a more clear accountability system and like transparency between students and administration. I think that administration, like, there's a lot of people on our campus who have a lot, like, really powerful positions and authority who don't deserve those positions and authorities because of the ways that they treat people, or the ways that they talk to students, or the way that they like are just very anti-Black. And when students report these issues, there's this huge investigation, and at the end, these people are protected and they continue to stay. So I just wish that there was a clear like transparency between like why these people are hired and why the university continues to excuse the behaviors of these people, despite the fact that they have this clear list of like standards and expectations that are not in alignment with what this person is doing. So that transparency level. And then I think accountability, meaning accountability doesn't just mean sending out a newsletter or a letter of like solidarity and then ending it at that. You know, I think it means actively trying to dismantle the things that are oppressive, the things that are hurting students and faculty and staff, and trying to just own up to these things without this extra layer of like, this is for PR, you know, and like we have to say what's right, we have to protect our reputation. And it's like, no, like students are just asking for complete honesty. And as students who are in these positions of like leadership and who do activist work and advocacy, it's like we understand that like people make mistakes. And what we ask is that people own up to their mistakes completely and fully and authentically without having to protect this layer of themselves. You know, it's like just be completely open and honest without having to, you know, have all this fluff that just causes more agitation from a student perspective. And then I think the third thing is I wish there was more priority and investment in the cultural resource centers, because I think that they teach a lot of like valuable information to students, and they provide this level of community that's uncomparable to anything else that I've experienced on our campus. So I just wish that there was like more investment into ASA, into the LGBTQ Resource Center, into APASA, NASA, and all of the cultural resource centers that literally go above and beyond to center students.
Gotcha, that sounds really good. Yeah, I remember you mentioning the reinvestment in the cultural resource centers during the COBA meeting. Mm-hmm. So, and especially now, like, I don't know how students are going to access it like in person, because I'm just assuming that they're not even open.
Yeah, they sent out a newsletter saying that they're all going to be programming virtually. So it's going to be interesting to see like how that works, because the thing about the cultural resource centers and like what makes them so unique is that interface of students just going to the cultural resource centers and it just being like this hangout hub. And like it's really unfortunate that like the new students won't be able to experience that, but I'm also excited to see like what they do virtually in terms of like conferences, webinars, workshops, and like wellness days and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. And like speaking of incoming students and also like just wrapping up,
Mhm.
so if an incoming freshman, they have to deal with going to college their first year in a pandemic. Maybe
Mhm.
they see the dynamics between students and administration. Maybe they feel intimidated. What would be
Mhm.
like some words of wisdom to them or words of encouragement?
I would say to be completely authentic. Like I keep saying like authenticity and all of this stuff, but I think that like being authentic to who you are and being authentic to what you stand for is the most liberating thing is like being making sure to like center yourself, your needs, and being able to advocate for yourself, centering around those things that center you and prioritize you and your experience as a student at the university. And I also do think that it's very important if you're feeling some type of way, especially like unrepresented or you're feeling anxious or agitated in some way, I think it's very important to reach out to your community and people who are willing to reach back and help you navigate this space at the university. Because I think that like there's some people who come to the university and completely thrive, like go Wildcats and bear down and everything. But there's also some students who just don't have that experience. And I think it's important for them to reach out to a community that reaches back to them and for them to really center themselves and their needs and being able to, again, just advocate for themselves and to understand that like um, they are a person and they are a human and they are this other entity besides just being a student at the university. And it's very important for them to honor that and really embrace that.
That sounds good. I like it. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for talking to me on my little podcast that like five people are going to see.
No,
But I appreciate it nonetheless.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Um, I'll see you around, probably virtually, and have a good rest of your week.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Ciao.
See ya.